Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm just, wanting to make a very short video. So I'll just get into it. Yes, stuff. And her video yesterday was talking about catatonia. And she was saying there's not a lot of videos out there on that subject, especially when it comes to DID and OSDD. So I thought I would make a video about my experience. Yep, good job. About my experience with catatonia, because I do experience catatonia and selective mutism, and I'm a system with approximately 17 known parts, and a lot of my parts are around the age of 4, because that is when there was trauma, like severe trauma. When I was 4 and I started going to what we call preschool here in Australia, and now it's called prep, but back in the day it was called preschool, and I was 4 and I did not speak at school for that entire year, but I spoke at home. So I was selectively mute, and that was because my abusers had put into me to remain silent, or they would kill me and they'd do this and they'd do that and all these horrible things if I disclosed what was happening to me. So I chose at school that I chose not to speak because I believed it was safer that way, and I was protecting myself that way. So at school I was selectively mute, but at home I was a completely different happy child. But always at school I was depressed, teary, antisocial, all of that. And they were two different parts, so there was like two different parts operating basically, and a dissociative kind of split there. And that part, selective mute part, has come out over the years. So I remember that part coming out when I was 11. I was called into the guidance counsellor's office at school. They wanted to know what was going on, and instantly I couldn't speak, and they thought I was just being, rude and ignoring them, but I wasn't. I literally could not speak. Same thing happened again on and off throughout high school during my teenage years. I would be, put in situations where I would have to talk about something in relation to trauma, and the selective mute part would come out and make it so I couldn't talk. And then the apparently normal part, the ANP part, or the going on with normal everyday life part, would be there in the background going, just talk, just talk, just talk. And then going, what is wrong with me? Why can't I talk? Not understanding. And it's not until all these years later that we understand the part takes over and you have no control. You want to talk, but you can't, because that selectively mute part is in control. So there was that. And I think in adulthood I've only experienced being selectively mute. Oh, no. When I think about my counselling sessions with my therapist, there were times where, yeah, it was quite common. I was going to say I've probably only experienced it in adulthood from like the age of 19 through to my mid-30s once or twice, but I think it's been a bit more common than that. I'm just haven't been aware of it. So now let's talk about the catatonic parts. There are also 4-year-old parts that experience catatonia. In the inner world, they're completely catatonic. They don't move. They're just like a lifeless form, asleep on a bed in their room, allocated rooms in the castle in the inner world. And let me think, there's been twice that I've been aware of them in the outside world. But the information, I'll get to the outside world thing in a minute, but the information I've received from the inside world is those catatonic parts are catatonic because it was better for them to play dead when abuse was happening. And so that's their role, is they just play dead. They go completely catatonic. They don't move. They don't speak. They're lifeless. They're completely catatonic. There's no other word for it. Now, the outside world, when I have experienced those catatonic parts in the outside world, I've only been aware of it twice in my adulthood, and it was triggered by extremely upsetting circumstances for me, emotionally traumatic circumstances. The first one was, I think I was about 28 years old, and I'd done IVF. I had 5 frozen embryos. My marriage broke up. We had to dispose of the embryos. So to me, it felt like abortion, knowing how hard it was to conceive a child and then having to destroy, 5 little baby embryos, was very emotionally traumatic for me. And I had no choice. I had to do it. I was court ordered to do it as well with the divorce stuff. So I'd gone to the IVF clinic, signed the paperwork to have them destroyed, gone home. I was fine until about 20 minutes after being home. I went completely catatonic on the floor in my lounge room. And because I wasn't responding to people's texts, they got worried. They came over. They found me catatonic on the floor, and they put me to bed. They had to actually help me up off the floor and almost carry me to my bed. And then I must have gone to sleep or something. I woke up the next morning. I was fine, but still very emotionally traumatized and depressed and all of that for a good couple of months afterwards. So that was one experience of catatonic, one of those catatonic parts coming out. Oi, sit down. In my adulthood. The second occasion where it happened, once a year at Easter time, we used to go to a Christian gathering. It was like a 4 or 5 day long camp out in the rainforest mountain areas, and we would go there, and there would be like, Christian messages being preached and all of that. And to make a long story short, the preacher was up there talking about, if you repent and if you do this and you follow this Bible verse and you believe in this and you have faith in this and you do this, blah, 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 you'll have a really good life. Everything will work out. And I was kind of sitting there listening to that message going, well, I've been doing that for a good 6-7 years and my life just keeps getting worse, And everyone around me at the time was saying that if I did blah, 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 my life would be blessed, happy, filled, all my needs would be met. But that was so not my experience. And so I started getting really depressed, and I thought, maybe I'm not praying right or doing it right. And so after that little preaching service, we had dinner. And then after dinner, I went for a walk, and I sat under a tree, and I thought, I'm going to make this right because I want my life to be blessed and happy and whatever. And I sat under that tree and I really tried to connect with God, and I was bawling my eyes out. I was, it was heartfelt. I meant every word of everything I said to God. And then it just got too traumatic for me, just the way life had turned out, the things that had happened, the things that were happening, the things that were going to happen. And one of my catatonic parts came out to, I guess, protect me from the trauma and the emotions of everything that I was experiencing in that moment. And so they came out and was just catatonic, just sitting there under the tree catatonic, and I think I had been there for a couple of hours because people had come looking for me. It was nighttime, they had torches and everything. They found me and they sat, I think, like I was co-conscious, so I knew what was happening, but I couldn't control it and I couldn't communicate back even though I wanted to. And these people sat down. Yeah, it is a noisy truck, it's a rubbish man. The people that were looking for me, one had found me, they sat down with me and had tried talking to me, but I couldn't communicate back. I was catatonic and selectively mute. So then they said, oh, we'll give you, you know, like another 20 minutes or whatever, and if you don't come back, we'll come and get you, because it's like freezing. It was like 14 degrees or something, and it was 11 o'clock at night, and, you know, everyone wanted to go to bed. And so they said 20 more minutes, we'll come back. They came back 20 minutes later. I was in the same position. I had not moved. I had not, like, I was like a statue basically. And so they had to carry me back or drag me back or whatever it was that they did to bed. And then they were like, what's going on? What's happening? And again, I couldn't speak. I was like a statue. And the everyday normal part was there, you know, trying to get back in control of the body, and they couldn't. And no, the people on the outside didn't understand what was going on. And what else can I say? So, you know, people on the outside just didn't know, didn't understand. At the time, I didn't know. I didn't understand until like 2 years ago when I actually realized that things. But OSDD and DID are hidden disorders, and they're hidden for a reason, and a lot of denial surrounds these disorders. And, you know, that's why it took me so long to realize that, you know, what the catatonia and selective mutism was about. And just thankfully, I've studied psychology. I am a qualified therapist, so I know how to kind of look, what to look for and how to work with these things. And I've done a lot of the work on myself, to myself, with myself, to get to where I am today, to be able to recognize it and go, well, this is what it is, and to actually make contact with these parts internally in the inner world and find out why they've done, why they're catatonic, why they're selectively mute, and then to look back on my life at the times when they've come out and understand why it was I couldn't take control of the body, why I knew what was going on and I wanted to stop it but couldn't, and then felt like crap afterwards and thought I was crazy and all of that. But it, you know, I now understand that that was not the case. So that's my experience with catatonia and selective mutism. And yeah, it's enabled me to share my experiences and put it out there to, you know, offer more insight and education into dissociative disorders with the world and the comorbid things that we experience, such as catatonia, selective mutism. Yeah, guys, if you want to know more, if you know me personally and you're like, what are you on about? I don't understand. You know, contact me on social media. I'm happy to talk about it with you. Same with anyone that watches this. You know, contact me on social media. Follow me on social media. Reach out if you have questions. I'm happy to talk. Always happy to talk. Links are in the description below. And yeah, we shall see you all in the next video. So take care, guys. Thanks for listening. Bye and peace.